Welcome to SBI's GTM Value Creation Corner podcast with CEO Mike Hoffman hosting. In this episode, Mike is joined by Mehta, CEO of Gainsight, exploring the critical role of customer success management and the impact of AI on enhancing customer retention and streamlining interactions. They also address how CEOs can reevaluate business strategies for efficiency amidst declining productivity levels.
Hey, Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. Obviously, so we're recording this on the last day of September 2024. You obviously live in a warmer climate than I do because it's becoming sweatshirt weather here, and you're still down in the short sleeves, so I'm jealous.
Yeah, right. California,
So Nick, you are a celebrity in your own right, but I do always want the audience to hear a little bit about our guests and about their company. So if you could do a quick intro for the guests and for our listeners, that'd be great.
I'm Mehta, CEO of Gainsight, and at Gainsight, we're all about helping companies grow revenue from their install base in an efficient way. We have 5 products that help with that. One that helps you scale your customer success team, which we're going to talk about. One that uses AI to 100% automated detect risk in your customer base in terms of sentiment, engagement, et cetera. One that's about driving adoption in your product. One that's about getting your customers connected together. And one about training your customers. But the big value is drive a consistent customer journey so you scalably improve gross and net retention.
That's great. And I think, there are probably quite a few of the of our listeners who use Gainsight. And so they should already be familiar with you and some of your products. And if they weren't familiar with all of them, it is a cross-sell opportunity for you.
There you go. Let's do it.
Nick, you and I have had conversations over the last several weeks, and I really wanted to focus and continue conversation that we've been having across the industry, which is really around commercial efficiency. So the headline of the whole thing from our recent research report has been that productivity has dropped by 68% from a commercial effectiveness standpoint and a commercial efficiency standpoint since 2020, and it continues to drop. And anybody who's interested in seeing the full report, great bit of research. It's available. There's a link in the description of the podcast, and you can download it for free. If I get more granular on that and I really get into the world of CS, so we look at this when we get inside the customer. So the study we did was 232 publicly traded companies, and we really looked at revenue. When we look at return on go-to-market, we get down to the bookings level because that's really where the story is told. And so we'll look at trailing 12-month bookings over trailing 12-month go-to-market costs, right? As a broad metric, and you watch that ratio over time, and looking at it on a trailing 12-month basis is the right way to do it. If you start pulling stuff out of the numerator and denominator, you start to get to some really interesting trends. So in some of our clients, we peeled everything back to renewal bookings, expansion bookings, cross-sell bookings, upsell bookings, and it doesn't matter. It could be a SaaS company, it could be a services company that has to. And then you put that over your customer success costs.
Yeah.
And what we have seen is even those ratios are going in the wrong way. In some cases, it's a numerator problem, and there's market headwinds, and people are trying to save money, and they're cutting back on what. But in other cases, it's a denominator problem where you can look and your gross retention bookings on a trailing 12-month basis, or your net retention bookings on a trailing 12-month basis. Those might be okay, but the costs are going up so fast that the ratio itself is coming down. So I guess this leads to the first question that I have for you. And since you and your team spend all your time on this, have we fallen in love as a group of companies with the CSM, and have we overhired in some cases to that role?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think, of course, as Mike, I'm sure you see with your clients, it's going to vary client to client. Some people are over-investing, some are under-investing. I think in general, we have too many headcount in pretty much every aspect of software. I think it's been rationalized significantly the last year. So you look at what Salesforce went through significantly, downsizing by several thousand people, including in CS. And I think what's happening is, as we can talk more about, is people are saying, look, I need the CS role to be more specific. It can't just have this open-ended charter of customer success. In some ways, the best and worst term for the job is customer success. It's a cool term because it sounds really good, but it makes it really open-ended. And so I'm seeing people say, look, I'm going to either have like a really technical person who's focused on adoption, or I'm a person that's all about, commercials. I'm going to merge the CSM and account manager role, or I'm going to charge for CS. And I think people are trying to say, I need to get a lot more efficient. So to your point, they need to improve gross retention. They need to improve efficiency. And then the final point is, I think most people are realizing this isn't really about just a CSM team. They on their own can only do so much. It's really looking at that whole customer journey, which is why I love what you guys do, because, you don't approach this from the CSM silo. You look at that whole go-to-market transformation end to end.
Right. Yeah. In some cases, the answer might be, are you selling the wrong new logos that are just going
100%
to churn? So yes,
totally.
it is a whole system view. And that's how we like to look at it. And because as soon as you tug on one thing and say, I think it's a customer success problem, everything's intertwined, and you find out it wasn't really a customer success problem. It was something else. And it might be how we price it and how we do, like the process by which we go about it. It's a good point. Here, I'm going to shift a little bit, as people are thinking about, hey, how can I potentially get the same outcome on gross retention and net retention at a lower cost? AI has been the big topic over the last couple of years, which is weird because I can go way back in time, and, Chat GPT, I think, shined a new light on it, but AI has been around and we've been talking about it for a while. How will AI advancement, and I know you guys are at the forefront of this, replace the people aspect in some cases, using large language models, maybe that troll social media, troll contact center data, and identify these propensities of customers? Can you talk a little bit about that and how you see the future?
Totally. Yeah. I think there's multiple pieces to it, but short answer, Mike, is there's a lot of opportunity. Some cases to assist employees to be more efficient. In other cases, to be able to augment the employees with, more coverage of accounts. And then finally, in some cases, probably to replace headcount as well. It's certainly going to happen in every function. So let me go through each of those. So in terms of assisting employees, there's a bunch of things that are happening today. We do this at Gainsight. Other people are doing it too, which is, removing the grunt work. You look at all that work of, logging notes, defining action items, updating contact information. There's so much opportunity preparing for an EBR. And, we're doing a ton of that today. A lot of that automated using generative AI in a product. And, it's similar to like what's happening in the SDR world or the sales world or marketing. People are saying, how do I remove the grunt work? So that's one thing, people refer to that concept as having a co-pilot. Microsoft really is the one that originally popularized that term. So in Office, there's a co-pilot now, is probably a bunch of people use. And Gainsight has a co-pilot now we've built. There's other ones out there. So one thing is really removing the grunt work. I think that's a huge opportunity. The second one is using.
By the way, just a quick story on that. I was a skeptic on how effective that would be, right? Capturing the notes and then the action items and everything else. So, if you've been able to embed that in it, I had our chief of staff who was out for a board meeting, who normally takes all the notes and action items for the board meeting. It's like, you know what? I'm going to rely on AI and let it listen in the background. And it does a really, really good job of capturing all of the key points, summarizing the key points and the action items. So it works.
It's incredible. Yeah, it works. And obviously as OpenAI and other models get better, like the O1 model, which just came out, just gets better. In fact, a little funny story is I have the worst handwriting you could possibly imagine. And I took a picture of it and had it take my notes and summarize them and all that. And it got about 90% accurate. So removing the grunt work. The second thing is that we see is removing blind spots. So, one of the things that's challenging is, we were talking about needing a CSM on every account and carefully monitoring what's going on. Like that can be generative AI. So we have a product called Staircase that basically is like analyzing our communications, your emails, your support tickets, your Slacks with zero user involvement and just flagging, risks for you, upsell opportunities, et cetera. And that's all possible today. Like that's again, like a way to augment, maybe touch accounts that you're not touching right now, or ones where there's just not a lot of coverage. Third example, which I think is also an efficiency play, is today, you have a lot of trapped knowledge in a company. Like one CSM or salesperson knows about their accounts, but they don't know the use cases and that other accounts have. They don't know how to solve a problem without going to get help from somewhere else. And so this Copilot notion can also help advise somebody and maybe over time reduce the number of roles that you need. Because I'm sure, Mike, you see this with your clients where it's like SDR, AE, onboarding project manager, onboarding solutions architect, CSM, maybe a technical CS architect, renewal specialist. I get tired even saying that. There's a lot. And I think that AI can help there. But if you go to the end extreme of think about an AI CSM, we spent a lot of time thinking about that. And there's multiple things you can imagine. You can imagine one version where it's just covering the accounts you don't cover. You can have another version where it's, making so you don't need some CSMs, right? It's both of those are eminently possible. And there, what you're going to want to do is some combination of like sitting in the app and kind of like guiding the user to do the next thing, but in an AI driven way. Also like emails and communications that are AI driven to the executive sponsor. So there's a lot of stuff you can do to take all this AI and then over time turn it into a virtual CSM. And then the question is, what are we all going to do with it?
Right. Yeah. It's also, what do we give up on that? Because I think as magical as AI is, there is a certain emotional narrative that's involved in any customer interaction. And the question is, how does AI flag that and say, don't understand, this needs human intervention?
That's exactly right, Mike. I think that it's naive to say, every customer is going to be covered by an AI now. In fact, I think a lot of the bigger customers are still going to need humans, but maybe assisted by AI. But I do think, you probably see this too. When we talk to our clients, they have maybe 10,000, 100,000 small clients, and those just don't make sense for CSM to reach out to. They're already doing some kind of digital touch using, Gainsight or whatever, but there's an opportunity to use AI to make that digital touch smarter.
Yep. I also like the trapped knowledge point. I think that is great because even in our business, when we look at it, right, we've done thousands of engagements with clients on helping drive outcomes, growth outcomes, and go-to-market optimization. and you'll watch internally on Teams or on email, people going back and forth, and they're like, "Yeah, we've done that 18 times before." And I think just that sharing and people being able to understand what has been done before and what plays have been run before.
It's interesting because we use that internally, obviously, right? And like I was on a call with a client and they said, "Hey, what customers of yours are doing, using this feature, one of the features of Gainsight in this industry?" In this case, it was healthcare. And I was like, I think I know, but I'm not sure. So I just went into the Copilot and said, what customers use us in healthcare using this feature? And it gave me the customers and gave me like a success story for each one. And this is like, there's no user entering this data. It's just totally generative AI. It's pretty amazing.
Did you build that yourselves using some kind of tools available, or is that your proprietary?
We built it using OpenAI, the ChatGPT APIs. But in the case of the Staircase technology, which analyzes sentiment, we use the OpenAI technologies plus some others that I wouldn't say built, but we've tweaked. But yeah, I think that's another thing that people are doing is they're using different models, different ways to do things. It's a lot of experimentation, which is exciting.
Great. All right. So the next place I'll go on this is, retention, really, really important. Identifying customers that have a propensity to churn or go somewhere, really important. Are there things that you're working on or aware of, or how should we think about propensity to expand?
Yeah, good question.
Identifying those things.
Definitely. I mean, there's multiple pieces to that that we see in our clients and even in Gainsight. Part of it is, hey, do they have the mindset and sentiment to expand? So are things going well or not, right? That's a simple heuristic. As you know, Mike, it's harder to sell to clients that aren't doing great with what you have. It's not impossible, by the way, because sometimes you can sell more as a chance to resuscitate things, hey, go bigger with us and we can do more. But I think in general, we all know that like risk and issues, can slow down sales cycles for expansion. And so I think there's a lot, people can do. This is why we bought this company Staircase, of just analyzing what's happening and tell me which accounts are going well. And actually I get alerts. This product gives you alerts in Slack about positive and negative things happening. And so I'll get alerts about positive things. And then, we'll talk about it and say, hey, is this time to go talk about some new product with them? Now, but I think the thing that's probably equally, but maybe even more actionable is to do that quantitative analysis where you say, hey, the accounts that expand tend to look like X, Y, and Z. The accounts that contract tend to look like A, B, and C. Most of our clients have done that analysis. That's not something we do today in our product, but people do that analysis typically offline where they'll load in their expansion data. They'll load in some leading indicators like usage, support data, NPS, et cetera. And they'll identify, hey, these are the patterns of a client that tends to expand. So for example, we have a feature in Gainsight called Journey Orchestrator, which is like an automation engine. And we've found that people that have that feature tend to expand more than those that don't. And so that's like a useful thing because we can kind of go target people that have that feature, but also we can get other people to adopt that feature because that sets them up to do more. So I think that analysis, which is actually quite simple, as long as you have the data. One of the biggest challenges, I'm sure you've seen this with your clients, Mike, is they just don't have good entitlement data about like expansion, contraction. It's largely due to like acquisitions and not having good CPQ and things like that. That is one of the foundational things to do this analysis.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Every one of our clients, their data is perfect. It's absolutely pristine. And I'm sure they would all agree with that. Because I think that it's a good way to attack both the, call it the numerator and the denominator of that ratio.
Yes.
Return on go-to-market. Because, now you're affecting trailing 12-month bookings. That's going up. And you also have higher effectiveness and efficiency with your CS spend. And so you kind of affect both. So I think, as more and more you can identify propensity to expand, not just propensity to churn, I think you're able to drive up your overall commercial efficiency as an organization. So it's good to know that there are pieces out there, because I'm sure there's a pattern in everyone's business that says people who bought and this used to be predictive recommendations in the e-commerce world. People who did this or bought this tended to buy this at a rate of 87%.
Yeah. 100% agree.
All right. Here's the next one. This is this was part of our research as well. So our research, we found in our buyer survey that there are 5 to 7 people after the sale on average that call on each customer, and the customer, their sentiment is, we actually don't know what any of those people do. And so it could be a CS person, it could be an account manager, it could be a technical account manager. How should companies think about all of those things and how they touch the customer so that the customer doesn't feel like a soccer ball in Pee Wee soccer?
Yeah, it's funny. I think we've over-specialized in the world of SaaS. So there are so many people. We even ran this analysis for ourselves because this Staircase technology analyzes all your communication. So you can tell like who's in meetings with customers. And for our own business, we were like, I was just shocked in the chart. I was like, oh, here's customers that had 10 people talking to them from Gainsight, 8, 9, 7. And it was just every customer has so many people. And I find that it's inefficient. The customer gets frustrated, and it's demoralizing for our team too, because you just don't know who's got what. So there's a lot of coordination that has to happen. So I think there's a few things that I find are happening. One is just a lot more role clarity. Because today it's like, oh, the CSM is the customer success manager. So it sounds like they should be doing everything, but also that's what the account manager does. And so it's kind of like a lot of confusion versus, okay, this is your role. This is your job. You're brought in here. Second thing is, I think better process. I know that sounds so obvious, but like, rather than just like, okay, scramble and go make it happen. It's like, no, we're going to have this really clear journey and these clear handoffs. And I know that sounds like just like basic, but people just don't do it. Right. And I know we need to get better at it too. And so just really clarity. I think for the client, once you have all that, being really clear up front with the client, here's our journey. Here's the people you're going to interact with. It's always surprising to me that people don't just open up with a slide that says, okay, we're going to have these roles. Here's what they're going to go do, and I think that that's not standardized for people. And then finally, I think, clearly the more you make this stuff digital and self-service, the better, right? So if every single thing is a human touch, then you're going to inherently have this kids soccer problem. But if there's a lot that the clients just do themselves, that's way better for everyone. So those are the quick things I'd say.
Got it. The process side, it is fun. You say that it sounds very basic, but even in a conversation I was part of this morning about one of our clients, they said, hey, as an outsider, Mike, can you just take a quick look at this? I took a quick look. I said, all of the people are there that need to do this. This is just a matter of laying out a RACI who is ultimately accountable and responsible for this, and then assigning them to that, and then a commitment from the senior management to drive it down. And it was just a matter of process and documenting that.
One thing on that, Mike, which it probably resonates with what you guys see, and also I think in some ways the ethos of your company. People think of sales and CS as two totally different things, but they're all part of the revenue cycle and the customer journey, And I think that they're balkanizing them. Like we just did a reorg, and I have a CCO and I put him, he's great, but I put him under our new CRO. And I think that you don't have to do it that way. There's other ways to do it too. You can have peers, but don't think of them as two different journeys. They're not, they're one journey.
Right. It is right. It's a single journey. And in this one this morning, it was really a conversation about CS and account management. It was those two functions. And I said, they're the same. Like they're doing the same things. So that's good. The other thing, this is just sort of a bonus thing for people to think about. A lot of times what we're seeing right now in the confusion with customers is that with hold periods being as long as they are, especially with PE-backed companies, the hold periods at this point, there's been a lot of add-on activity that's gone on, right? Get some arbitrage, while we're continuing to try to grow this thing to put it in a position to exit, and you end up with overlay salespeople, and so I think some of that is just a matter of reconciling it. 100%. You can probably relate to that a little bit.
Very much, yeah. We're 5 products, so I've been through all that myself.
Yeah. Any other words of wisdom before we part? Would love to have you back to do. I think we could probably do about 5 follow-ups to this. But
I know there's so much we could talk about. Yeah, I just think that this is the time to look at things from a bit of a blank slate, just like we're doing in our business and our clients are doing. Probably your clients are doing too. We've inherited a lot of the mess from the bubble. And, I joke that the bubble made us all feel like we're so great at our jobs. And now we're a little more humbled, which is good. We need to be humble. Yeah. And I think it's the right time when things are probably slower for a lot of businesses, where it's like, hey, let's just go back and look at what really needs to be done. What roles do we need? What does the customer journey need to look like versus, oh, we've got all these people and let's just keep evolving with the people we have. I kind of tell our team all the time, imagine, we were starting Gainsight again from scratch. What would we do? What orgs would we have? Right? Forget about all the people we have and the leaders and all that, and just start with what would it be if we started over?
Yep. Agreed. I think, I like that question. And there's always in addition to that, what right now are we doing that we're not getting a return on investment for? And just stop doing that. And then the last one is look at every role in the company and ask yourself, if that role were empty, would I rehire that person that's in the current role? And if the answer is no, then you should make a move.
You nailed it. That's so well said. I'm sure you think about that even in your own business. So awesome to see you, Mike. I'm happy.
Maybe more often than my team wants to know.
Okay, we're similar that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, Nick, thank you. This has been spectacular, and we'll definitely have you back. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
You've been listening to SBI's GTM Value Creation Corner podcast with CEO Mike Hoffman hosting. Visit sbigrowth.com to read SBI's latest research, join upcoming events, or learn about SBI's GTM services. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and connect with us on LinkedIn.